Hey guys, welcome back to another Hospitality MD live show. I'm thinking we're probably going to start doing this every Friday. The time might be up for grabs most weeks, at least in the meantime, while I navigate some of this medical stuff with nurses coming and stuff like that. But we plan to be live every Friday on YouTube and Facebook. And Greg, how are you this morning, man?
I am doing very well. Good to see everybody, and good to see you. Actually, I haven't seen you much this week. It's been kind of a quiet week for us, so it's kind of nice to
Yeah,
see you.
absolutely. Same to you. So today, our last week's episode was kind of a little bit of a reaction to Food and Wine's "The Customer is Not Always Right" video, or article, I should say. And I basically disagreed with pretty much everything the article had to say. So if you want to check that out, go to our YouTube or go to Facebook and check that out. It's a I know I'm biased because I was the one who talked about it, but I think there's a lot of interesting points. So certainly check that out. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, just take a second right now to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is going to be imperative as we start to build out our YouTube presence. We're going to be uploading 2 times a week for now. With the live stream and then 1 episode. And then eventually our goal is to build up to 3 uploads per week.
Yeah.
Speaking of uploads, our podcast episode from this week with Ken Patel has been performing very well. It's our second most popular interview to date. So for any of you who've listened, thank you so much. YouTube has been very good to us this week and has been recommending the video to a lot of people outside of our more consistent viewers and followers. So we appreciate that. And we're looking forward to keeping that trend going.
Yeah, I have the link actually in the description on Facebook and YouTube. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you're probably one of the few that haven't. So you should take a look at that after this stream.
Definitely check it out. You're going to learn about the future of hotel management through there. So now that everybody is subscribed to our YouTube channel and you know what to watch after this is over, let's get started with today's show. So today, we're going to be doing another reaction, and this time with something that I agree with pretty much 100%, and that is it's no wonder why, because this is coming from the renowned Shep Hyken. He's a customer service and customer experience expert. He is a New York Times bestseller, and he's just all around gets it when it comes to hospitality and customer service. He really embodies the hospitality is everyone's business philosophy. So this one is going to be pretty easy. We're going to be talking about his top 10 predictions for 2021 for customer service and experience. So let's dive into that.
All right.
Okay. Shep also, I don't know if he does it. I have to find out, but he always has some great comic strips, which I like. So he's got one in here too about I can see the future, chatbots, AI, and better customer service. That's fine while I find love and live a long life. And this actually kind of goes hand in hand with our 3 most recent episodes actually on the podcast have been about new technology and new ideas to modernize the hotel industry. So definitely a lot to be said about that. So every year, Shep writes his customer service and customer experience predictions in his Forbes column. This year, he thought he would share a brief version of them with the Shepherd Letter subscribers. So this, we found it on HospitalityNet, but he also has his direct mail. So number 1, right? Customers continue to get smarter. So he says this has led to my list of predictions for several years. Our customers keep getting smarter because they tolerate they keep getting smarter about customer service because they tolerate fewer customer service failures and demand better because they know it's possible. So first thing that I think of when I read that is what's one of the most prominent things that kind of came up during 2020. And Greg or somebody else is maybe correct me. I don't know if this was before 2020, but the term Karen, is that 2020?
I think it became more mainstream in 2020, but I feel like Karen, the essence of Karen, has been around for a lot longer than that.
Right. And so I think with that being said, right, this mainstream idea of Karen, this uh, kind of this customer, right, who will not tolerate customer service failures because they know that it's possible. So, right, we can talk crap about Karens all day. We can demonize Karens for having expectations, right? That's what they try to do on the article that we talked about last week. And not to say that we don't have difficult customers, regardless of your industry, but the silver lining to this and the positive thing about it is that they know it's possible. So that means that there are some great businesses and service providers out there who are embracing hospitality and making their customer and guest experience a priority. So granted, yes, when you're dealing with somebody who has high expectations or they don't they don't have empathy, like not everybody's perfect. That's not necessarily true all the time, right? They just know that there is good out there, that we as a service industry in the most general sense have been performing very well. So and customers, consumers, they spend their money. That's what they do. They know that these good experiences are out there, so they're smarter about that now. And now they tolerate less. So if you find yourself constantly dealing with Karens or dealing with customers who are demanding better, that means, and that should be a warning that you are falling behind. And just like Shep said, they know it's possible. I think that's a key component of this particular segment. They know it's possible. So if you find yourself overwhelmed with upset customers, you are falling behind and you're failing, and time to reassess how you view them. So number two, customers are becoming impatient. This is kind of in the same sentiment. So they want what they want now. Consider the result of the more than 1,000 customers that Shep surveyed for the 2020 Achieving Customer Amazement Survey. A whopping 96.2% of customers are willing to leave because of bad customer service. And he predicts that number will stay high and is more important than ever as we continue to navigate and come out of the pandemic. 96.2%. Greg, what's your reaction to that?
I believe it. I think I'm in that percentage. If I have a bad experience somewhere, I'm not going to come back. There's so many other options out there that why am I going to put myself through terrible experience, for a mediocre product when I can just go somewhere else and have a great experience.
I hate to put you on the spot. Do you have an example? Can you think of anything that comes to mind? Have you been in the 96.2% in recent?
In recent times, no, because you can't really go anywhere. So it's been a while. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite restaurants, if you know me, is Potbelly, and I like to go there because they're consistent. For the most part, they're consistent with their service and what you get. So, I'm sure if I knew in advance that you'd ask me that question, I could have came up with something. But yeah, off the cuff, I can't think of anything. It's been a while.
But Potbelly continues to keep you going back because of their consistency. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, and their delicious sandwiches.
Yep, Potbelly is really good. It's great. And I thank you for really turning me on to like a new level of consuming Potbelly. Granted, not having one, we were actually lucky at both of the hotels we worked at together to have a Potbelly in the immediate vicinity of both of those properties. So now being away from a Potbelly right, a block away is tough, but they are great. So yeah, 96.2, right, are willing to leave because of bad customer service. And are they wrong to do that? I don't think so. Like Greg highlighted, there's so many options and choices out there right now that if you are failing, it's not like you're the only place in town to go to. There's always going to be more choices. So for me, I find myself thinking back to times that I've actually had to see guests walk out of the hotel, and it takes me back to the first hotel that Greg and I worked with together. And Greg, I don't know if you're going to remember this guy, but there was a guest who, one of many, right, but was just could not be satisfied with anything, and I think we were actually doing him a favor by saying it got to a point where we had to say, like, maybe this property isn't the one to suit your needs. Like, even though we work here, we still want you to have a great experience nonetheless. And if this property isn't it, then let's help you go somewhere where you can have that experience you're looking for. So the owners of this property who mismanaged it, didn't invest it, and let it basically crumble, paid the price because of lost business time and time again. And Greg and I experienced this over and over again at that particular hotel. And there was one guest in particular that he tried and tried and tried, and we actually just had to facilitate him out of the property for his own good. Because it got to the point where, given the limited resources and product deficiencies, we just couldn't meet his needs. So yes, 96.2, that's going to continue to grow. So number 3, right? The word for 2021 will be empathy. I love this. So while people have embraced self-service solutions and digital selling experiences, COVID-19 saw customers who normally would be happy with the digital experience reaching out to companies just to talk to someone who cares. I'm sorry to laugh, but more than ever, empathy is at the root of a successful human-to-human interaction. And I couldn't agree more. Let's think back, and this is, for a lot of our audience of hotel people, let's think back to, and especially for those who worked during the pandemic or for a portion of it, I remember people calling, and you would even have this before the pandemic as well, but it's still, that trend is continuing, where you have people calling for something that you may think is like a transactional type of thing. We're canceling a reservation, we're making a reservation, we're changing the dates, we're doing something, whatever those things might be, but you find them telling you their entire life story. Greg, can you relate to that?
Yeah, they're calling to cancel a reservation. They got to tell you about your cousin's uncle getting sick, and then the kid falling down the stairs, and all that just to cancel a reservation.
Right. But what are they screaming for at that point? They're screaming for somebody to listen, right? Yeah, exactly. Somebody to listen, somebody to empathize, somebody who cares. And I think it's so telling, and it's actually so humbling. And I'm actually just thinking about this for the first time. I regret not having this thought when I was actually working behind the desk and dealing with these calls. But the guests are reaching out to the hotel, right? Because they know that hotels are, they're meccas of hospitality, right? In a way that these are houses of hospitality where your reasonable expectation would be that when you visit or when you call, the person on the other line is going to be empathetic and they're going to care. So this guest who could have very easily went online and canceled their reservation is calling in their time of crisis to a hotel that they looked forward to visiting to try and grasp at straws of any hospitable experience that they could have possibly had, even if it's to console whatever negative emotions they be feeling. So for those in hotels, or even, I mean, I don't know what other, to be honest with you, I don't really know what, maybe this would happen at a retail store or in any other customer service setting. But if you have a customer who wants to talk your ear off about something, listen, because they're putting their faith in you. And it's almost, when you have that name tag on, when you have that polo shirt on, when you have that uniform on, you're representing hospitality and you're doing a community service to the people, whether they live in that community or not. So I think Shep is right on the money here. We obviously are enjoying the convenience of digital services. However, we want human to human interaction. If we were satisfied with digital only experiences, we would never see our friends and family ever again, because we'd be completely satisfied. And the same goes for consumers, guests, etc. If they were happy with exclusively existing in a world where your transactions were as transactional, digitized, simple, and convenient as ordering a box of Sharpies on Amazon, then everything would be that way. But it won't, because people need to connect with other human beings. And if you're in the service or hospitality industry, you basically have somebody wrote on your forehead, "Talk to me, I'll listen." So take that seriously. That's a responsibility and a duty to your community. Greg, do you have any thoughts on that, by the way, before I move on?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So number 4, convenience is no longer optional. Very similar to the sentiments we just talked about. So this was a differentiation that helped distance companies from their competition. Now it's expected. For example, before the pandemic, delivery was a nice option that some businesses offered. Now it's an expectation that businesses have scrambled to incorporate into their day-to-day experience. This is, I agree completely with Shep's prediction, with his sentiment. Don't get me wrong. I will say that it's a little bit, while I am understanding, I think, everybody, the world is benefiting, where our quality of life has grown because of things like this. It's still a little bit, upsetting, because I think this will, in turn, shutter some of the small businesses that just don't have the infrastructure, your brick and mortar boutique stores, even some of your restaurants as well with this delivery model. And then you have your Targets, your Walmarts, and your Amazon, and those kind of big box heavy hitters that are really going to continue to eat up market share. And granted, obviously, this is as the way, this is as the cookie crumbles, right, with consumer behavior. However, I can't help grieve for some of the small businesses that I think will be lost because of the large infrastructure needed to execute things like these. And I think some will be able to adapt, but I think we'll probably see more that aren't able to. Greg, do you have any sentiments on that?
Right now is a perfect time for that, right? Everybody's either adapting or they're closing up, and anything that opens new is going to have to conform to that new model of, people expect to have a curbside pickup or delivery options for restaurants. So there's always something new and better coming. So hopefully there's some better options out there for restaurants besides like Uber Eats and DoorDash, who take so much money from these restaurants. I feel like something will open eventually, but I agree with both you and Shep here.
Yeah, and it has me thinking now a little bit, just what you just said about Uber Eats and DoorDash for restaurants, which are right now in an environment where, let's just talk about a normal restaurant, right? Margins are already dangerously low to begin with. It's very difficult to make money. The amount of manpower that goes into running a restaurant, your labor costs, your food costs, which is constantly, perishable food items constantly going in and out. All these things to make running a restaurant a low margin industry to begin with. Not to say that you can't make money, but you're going to have to spend a lot more, and it's going to have to be a little bit more labor intensive than, say, an e-commerce business. So with that being said, these DoorDash and Uber Eats are taking, I don't have the percentages, but I would imagine it's somewhere in the 30% range, as is OTAs to hotel rooms. I was listening to something yesterday. I believe it was the Advantage Hotels podcast. And Patrick Mullenix, the host, shared a story about his experience. He tried to book a room through at one of his friend's hotels. His friend was an owner. He wanted to stay there, so he tried to book a room, right? And the OTA, what rate was supposed to be about $81. By the time the OTA took their commission, the loyalty program took their commission, all commissions and service fees were taken care of it. This $81 rate, the hotel only received like $35, $36 from the customer. Their money, they only received $36. We can't do this forever. This is not something that will continue to be sustainable. And right, when you have Expedia, Booking.com spending billions of dollars every year on advertising, when you go and marketing, when you go to Google and you search for a hotel, and Greg, how many times have we heard this, right? And I'm sure a lot of the hoteliers can agree, especially front office people, probably in the last 5 years. When I thought I booked through the website, when the conversation of, oh, you booked through a third party, whatever. Oh yeah, I thought I clicked on Hilton.com. I Googled it and I clicked on the first thing that came up. Well, maybe in 2004 you could have done that, but now the billions of dollars that OTAs are spending on search engine optimization and marketing and advertising is, your direct bookings are slashed dramatically, because not only do consumers believe that they're booking through the website a lot of the time, but also they incentivize through the assumption that they have lower rates. They also have their own loyalty programs and their own deals to get consumers in, and it's a detriment, honestly. Over time, it's, especially in a damaged travel economy like we see right now, it's bad. So restaurants are dealing with it, hotels are dealing with it, and then on your brick and mortar retail side, it's just, you're basically going out of business at that point. What do you think, Greg?
I think right here, I looked up, Uber Eats charges anywhere from 20 to 30%, depending on the restaurant, for delivery, and 15% for pickups. So, and it's typically around 30%. The 20%, I think, are probably for bigger chain restaurants that can negotiate a lower price. But your mom and pop shop, they're paying 30%, which is,
there goes your margin. There goes your entire margin that you would have been, right? And I watched like a little, like, 20-minute little mini documentary about LA County's restaurant industry during the pandemic, and there was one guy interview of a sports bar who was saying that with their delivery and pickup only model, they were only able to cover the expense of the food, the product itself of the food, as well as the limited payroll that they had. So that was the revenue generation of pickup and delivery model through Uber Eats, DoorDash, etc. So that means rent, utilities, insurance, unpaid, completely unpaid.
sad.
It's super sad. It's very, very sad. So now, just like we talked about last week, right? When you take away these experiences, you'll see the rise of ghost kitchens and things of that nature, where now restaurants are just opening up a hallway where they have a line cook, and they're maybe a a kiosk for their Uber Eats and stuff, and they're just making the food there, and they have a menu, and they're doing that. What's the I think, but there's some people who are actually very successful at it. Mr. Beast Burgers or something. I don't know. I've seen some Gary Vee videos on it. Greg, have you seen those?
I saw a clip of something where he's yeah, he started. Mr. Beast is a big time YouTuber. Probably one of the biggest out there, and he's always doing things to give things away for free and give out money and helping people out. And yeah, he started his own burger, Mr. Beast Burgers, and I heard he wants to make so much money off of it that he can go ahead and give away more money to other people. Like he's doing it kind of so he can raise money to give money away. You know,
Good
so
for him.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, he's definitely using his platform for good. But that's as much as I know about it. I haven't really looked too much into it.
Yeah, it just a fleeting thought, because I do know that they're doing the ghost kitchen model as well, and I have heard some success stories from them. So, it's obviously, again, I wrap this part up by saying I agree with Shep, but there is certainly some devastation that comes along with the rise of convenience. So we certainly have to innovate to be able to overcome it. So number 5, so companies are finding more ways to automate and digitize the experience. If you want to see a prediction reveal itself in real time, just look what happened in the first few months of the pandemic. Companies were forced to adopt technologies that they would have used eventually, but not for 3 to 5 more years. COVID-19 pushes in the future. Couldn't agree more. I think, this kind of speaks for itself. Stay digital, or go digital or die. So,
yeah.
Number 6. Sorry, did you have a sentiment, Greg?
No, not at all.
Okay. So the virtual and remote workforce has become business as usual. Many companies that would have never thought it possible now embrace the remote workforce to the point of saying, quote, "We're shutting down our offices," end quote. Not every company will go 100% remote, but the option is there if they want to go that level. I agree 100%. It's the way of the future. It's definitely the way of the future. Again, I say my number one sentiment on this is I worry for the human soul in a remote work environment. And the reason I say that is because there's a certain level of grit and pride and American experience and just living your life when you wake up in the morning, you put on whatever your clothes are that you're going to wear to work, business casual, suit, whatever that means to you in an office setting. And a lot of times that means you're going to be wearing a shirt with a collar. So you're going to dress in something that makes you feel good, because we know that the clothes you wear translate directly to how you feel about yourself and the confidence that you have. So you're going to get up, clean yourself, bathe yourself, make yourself feel fresh and clean. You're going to put on something that feels good, and you are going to commute to work. Whether you're driving, you're getting in the car, boom, or you're going to the metro station and you're taking the train and you're going to commute into the urban environment, or you're going to ride your bike, whatever you're doing to commute. That is part of the human experience of fulfilling your responsibilities. And I think that actually, as much as people say, oh, it's so inconvenient, et cetera, I think it actually fuels us as humans to have a destination to go to, and a destination that's sole purpose is to collaborate with other human beings in a way that, hopefully for most people, would be toward a cause that they believe in. With that being said, I think companies who can sell that idea, should they choose to keep their business and their workers in the office, I don't think they're going to have a choice necessarily, because people will either there's so many options for people to go and say, well, this company's offering remote work, I'm just going to go work for them. So I think it's going to really require a buy-in from from your workers from whatever route you go, whether that's completely remote or all in the office. But I think for companies who want that office experience, you're going to have to sell them on that human experience that we're missing. Greg, do you have anything to say about that particularly?
Yeah. I mean, I slightly disagree with what you started to say, but then at the end, I agree. They are gonna have to sell it because there's a lot more. It's becoming a lot more apparent to people out there that that's being able to spend time with their family. Pick up the kids from school, take them to school, be there for homework, and not have to commute 2 hours to and from work every day is becoming more and more important. Especially the more people hear about how life is in Europe and how work is kind of like secondary to just being happy and living life. Um, that yeah, the way that Americans work themselves to death is just it's just crazy. So I think it's gonna the companies that are gonna have an office and need that office experience is they're definitely gonna have to sell that experience and find ways to build relationships in the office and not just have it business as usual anymore.
I thank you and appreciate that sentiment because I really didn't consider that off the top of my head, but I think you're right. The priority of the American worker now that, right, like you said, they've experienced this other side of what was never even a possibility for many Americans, and they experience this. Is it going to be something that they want to go back to? So I think there's a little bit of maybe it's depending on who you are, it's depending on the company, there's a lot of variables involved, but again, I think bottom line, agreeing with Shep that ultimately he's right. The remote workforce has become business as usual. Number 7, right? So personalization at a digital level is getting more personal. As sophisticated CRMs and AI integrate, the data that is generated will help companies create a more personalized experience. Customers enjoy feeling connected when companies know who they are, even if it's at a digital level. And AI will fuel this trend. Great. Again, our most recent podcast interview, this is what we're talking about in terms of applying this to the hotel industry. Brand new company. Nobody's done this before. Maybe a few one-offs, but on a large scale with branded smaller hotels and so on, this is the first time we're going to be seeing this at scale in the hotel industry. And we're going to start seeing it much more. So I certainly agree with Shep. And I think it's the, like we talked about, guests who crave human connection. I think this AI integration, if applied well, will only fuel hospitality even further. What do you think,
absolutely. I look at what Hilton's doing with their connected room. I think at some point they plan on having it where you go to check in and the room automatically knows what temperature you like, maybe what channel you like to watch and have your TV on, what setting you like your lights on, and when you first think about it, it's like, oh man, I guess that's kind of cool. But then now in my own personal life, I'm automating my house. I'm putting sensors on, so like when I give certain commands, certain lights turn on and off, and just just different things just to make life easier. Put things on timers. I have my front porch light set on a timer for sunset and sunrise, so that I don't ever have to turn it on or off. Like it's just little things like that it just makes life easier. And the more that gets into your home life, I guess when you're on the road that much, it'll be convenient, and I think it'll drive some more loyalty to the brands that can do it right.
And that's a great sentiment, and hopefully that means that we'll start to see some business travel rebound in terms of like the connected room and that sort of thing. I think it'll certainly help. So speaking of AI, right, chatbots will do more than just communicate with customers. Most companies use chatbots as a way to manage customer support. Chatbots will continue to do that and get better at it. They will also help decide what happens next. The initial interaction is the starting point for automating processes or escalating the issue to a human. Okay, so I agree with Shep. One of our podcast interviewees, Paula Carrero, I know I didn't pronounce your name right, Paula, and I'm so sorry, but she just celebrated, her company Ask Suite just celebrated 15 million customers served via their chatbot service. And I know we've seen it a lot in, your companies, when you're on their website, you get a pop-up in the corner of, hey, ask me anything, or something like that, right? So chatbots are here, and people also are, I think, would rather, personally, I'd rather call them on the phone than deal with the chatbot personally. I don't know about you, Greg, but for me, I would rather be calling them up and just speaking to them rather than going back and forth with a chatbot and then maybe escalating it to a human. But I know that I may be an anomaly in that, and people are using chatbots. My girlfriend, Niles, she, for a long time, worked kind of with integrating as being the human part of it, and it was nonstop with the chatbot stuff. So I get it. For me, I'm just an anomaly, I think. What about you?
I try to avoid talking to anybody if I can. I'll find the information out myself. If I really need to, I probably would call or even email somebody if I can, but I don't have much experience using chatbots. I think I use it a couple times with like Comcast if I have an issue, and it's a pain in the butt. I don't think Amazon has a chatbot. I don't think you can talk to anybody from Amazon really. They make it difficult to actually reach people, but yeah, I probably would call somebody at this point, just because I don't have much experience with the chatbots.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that'll change. So I think this is the one that this number 8, right, that Shep said. I think this is the one that I will be keeping my eye on particularly more, because I'm genuinely interested. Again, I have a lot of ignorance in this, so I'm sure we'll start to see this manifest itself, or maybe not. So we'll see. So this one, number 9. So companies will over automate and over digitize. This is as much a warning as it is a prediction. Interesting. So overdoing any of the technologies puts a company at risk of becoming a commodity, little or no differentiation from its competitors. There's a gap that is getting wider for some companies. That gap is the ever increasing dangerous distance between the customer's automated experience and the customer's human to human experience. Definitely my favorite one on the list, if you ask me. Here we go again with this word commodity, which was a big talking point on last week's live stream. So again, I will remind everybody who maybe wasn't there, we can go back to it, but a commodity, right? When you look up the definition, it's something with economic value, something that can be sold. But I think there's also another definition that we didn't really talk about last week, which is a commodity is almost something that's just kind of, I'm trying to think about how to explain this. It's almost like there's unlimited supply, basically, to a certain extent. Greg, do you get where I'm going with that? Have you heard commodity used in that way, where it's just kind of, there's really no limit, it's kind of just anybody can have it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's where Shep is going with this. So overdoing the technologies puts a company at risk of becoming a commodity. So just one of the masses, right? All this demand, either or, no differentiation, with literally no differentiation from its competitors. So I agree. This is where last week's talking point of was particularly in hotels and restaurants in the hospitality industry. What is our commodity? What is our economic value? It is personalized, custom, unique, and authentic hospitality experiences. So that is our good that we're selling, right? Because the product of a bed to sleep in, or a hamburger or a cheeseburger, is no longer something. Those things are commoditized. But customized, unique, and authentic experiences are not, because they're completely personal. And I think that's what we'll start to see. So I definitely think huge warning out there. Hospitality is not going away at all. So do not get caught up in the convenience at the sake of hospitality. So let's see some comments here. So from Niall, so chat works best for people with smaller issues or requests. Speaking to a live agent will always be necessary for more difficult situations or for people who are blind. Great contribution. So I think this is where I might have an issue with the chatbots, maybe currently as they are. I'm sure they'll get smarter, but like Greg said, right? If you have a small issue, you're going to try and just find the information out on your own, which if it's a small issue, I'm sure it's easily available, something that can be answered without attempting to speak to anybody in the first place. But what is the reason why consumers usually go to a customer support agent for what they believe, which may or may not be depending on the company, but what they believe to be a complex issue that requires individual attention. And that's the nature of the consumer. Everybody thinks that their issue or the reason that they're speaking to somebody is completely unique to them, which it is. Even if it's an issue that you've dealt with 100 times just in that shift, for example, it is completely unique to that consumer, which is, I think, why for a customer support setting, a chatbot may not be as effective right now, because a consumer is going to get frustrated having to explain their issue to something that they know is a bot. In terms of like Ask Suite, for example, which is a chatbot solution that I support, I would actually say that a better thing would be using a chatbot to receive like incoming leads almost, or to receive just inbound information requests rather than trying to solve complex issues using chatbots. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Thank you for that, Niall. Lance says, chatbots always drive me crazy. Ask it something, it answers something else. So maybe they're just not smart enough yet. And perhaps Shep's prediction will come true that they'll get smarter and they'll be utilized more. But I think right now, maybe we're maybe in some sort of agreement here that maybe they're better for some things than others. So last one, number 10, problems can be predicted. Companies will increase their ability to fix a problem before customers ever know they have one. Different sensors, alerts, and alarms will trigger companies to proactively manage a customer's experience like never before. So I'm not exactly sure like what the specifics of this would look like, different sensors, alerts, and alarms. I don't know what that means necessarily.
I can give you an example.
Okay, please. Thank you.
One thing I actually just thought of right now, why, we have so many smart thermostats out there. Why can't we set thresholds where we get alerted if it goes below or above certain temperatures in the room? We had issues with heating and cooling at our last property. Why, if it went above, 77 degrees, why couldn't we get an alert at the front desk that says, hey, this room is above this amount or below this amount? Instead of having to send the guests to the room, they get up there and it's, a sauna or an ice box. Yeah. But these are problems then that can be predicted, and yeah, we got better and smarter and like checking these rooms beforehand, but these processes weren't in place when I first started at that hotel. It took time, and it took working with their director of rooms and and housekeeping and engineering to really start to work together. But yeah, these things can be automated. It's just little things like that. Different sensors for water leaks, and there's so many different things that they have for home automation that I can see them putting into places like hotels, and who knows what other businesses can benefit from it.
Thank you for that. I actually just got chills when you were talking. I don't know why, honestly. You said something, but I got chills at one point.
It's just the sound of my voice.
It's definitely what it is. But one of the properties I worked at with the Hilton Triplex at McCormick Place, which is essentially less than a year old when I started there, so brand new property, they had something called Incom, which is an engineering system that pretty much does exactly that. So if an air conditioning unit needs to be reset, they know and they can reset it remotely. If a door lock batteries, which I think is another great example of a potential problem that could happen, rather than the guest going to the room trying to tap their key onto their lock and finding out that the batteries are dead, this income system is everything is online, and it would alert the battle station essentially to dispatch somebody when there is low battery alert, so it can be stayed on top of constantly, and these small problems that are the biggest annoyances can be addressed before it becomes an issue. So that's it. So as Shep says to close, there are plenty of other predictions that will be made by other experts. All of these can be used to start conversations around what's next, what must change, and more. And Shep, we certainly did. Thank you for this, because we were able to have what I think was a productive conversation. Oh, Lance, Paramount Suite giving you the chills. Yes.
Only in December.
Or the sweats. So as you start to make decisions based on these and other predictions, always look to the future and anticipate the impact of your customers and employees. So for those of you who are looking to contact Shep, or for more information, www.hyken, that's HYKEN.com. He is the customer service guru. So definitely be sure to send him some love for his great predictions and for the inspiration for today's conversation. So with that, we're almost done with the show, but we do have one little game that we're going to be playing here. So Greg, what are we doing, my friend?
We're playing a little game of overrated, underrated. Basically, I have a few subjects here, and I just want your opinion on whether you think they are overrated, underrated, or even properly rated, if that's the case. So
I have no idea what Greg is about to say right now.
Yeah, we stole this idea from Gary Vaynerchuk. He's been doing it with some more popular items, so I decided to make a hospitality version of it. So if you're ready,
I'm let's stop my heart from beating. Tell me the first one.
First one, check-in kiosks.
Ooh, I might get some pushback for this, but I think they're properly rated, because I think for the most part they've been around for a long time in some capacities, and I think there's a reason why hotel operators have not implemented them yet. I think they're properly rated right now.
Well, I'm going to jump in real quick and say they're overrated based on my experience with them at O'Hare for a few years. They sucked. I mean, I'm hoping that the technology got better, but the ones that I used were terrible. All right, here we go. Labor management systems.
Labor management systems are insanely overrated. Insanely, I cannot stress this enough, incomprehensibly overrated. And the reason I say this is because what do labor management systems not take into consideration? Context, which is the basis and the foundation of the hotel industry. No decisions can be made based on numbers alone, especially for critical roles like who is going to be the first impression of your business and your organization, and who is going to be serving your customers. Like we know, people are willing to tolerate very few things nowadays, and understaffed is one of them, because you know what? Yeah. It just, you know, you don't care when you walk into a business and they're understaffed. I watched one of the most beautiful hotels probably in the city, not to mention maybe even in the country, just get destroyed day in and day out as a direct result of multiple variables, but as a heavy result from labor management systems. Overrated.
Real quick, going back, Lance asked manned or unmanned. I'm guessing for the check-in kiosks. Mine were unmanned, because if you had somebody standing in the lobby doing nothing and there's 200 people in line, you better believe they're behind the desk checking somebody in. So I think most of them are unmanned. And then also he said that labor management systems are so overrated. Screws individualism and just puts all the responsibility to the manager on duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could honestly go an entire episode. I actually wish that our podcast guest from this week was actually here to speak with me about this, because maybe there's new stuff that's coming out that I don't know about yet. That includes context, but I think in my very recent experience with labor management systems, plus and knowing that as of right now, I don't know of any labor management systems that include context. I don't know how smart the AI would have to be to do that, but I think that let's trust the hoteliers to make critical decisions for their hotel, and critical decisions include who is going to be there and how many people are going to be there on any given moment or time. The one thing I will say, and I know I'm rambling on about this, but it's because Greg gave me a good one here. If there was AI that could provide data as to give you more resources to better make decisions on your own labor management, but you were still ultimately making the decision, I think that would be fine. Like, I have no problem with standardized recommendations or labor management standards. Like, I don't necessarily have any issues with that, as long as there's flexibility from ownership to take context into consideration. Black and white hotel management is the biggest mistake anybody can make.
Nice. Building connections in the community.
Oh, building connections in the community, completely underrated. I mean, what else are we doing if we're not building connections in the community? Whether that is in the, your physical community, whether that's the community around you, or whether that's in your community as in like the industry you belong to, or really any way that you define community. That is, I think, the basis for fulfilling our spiritual desires as humans, like to actually connect with people and have real conversations and establish common ground or similarities. I think that's beautiful. Completely underrated.
All right. Housekeeping turn down service.
Ooh, good one. I am going to go with properly rated. Reason I say that is because I don't know of anyone who would not choose a hotel because of that offering or the lack thereof. For example, I'm sure there are people out there who are accustomed to stay over service at Forbes 5-star and AAA 5-diamond properties. Perhaps that's the case. But I think when we're talking about the hotel industry as a whole, it's properly rated. It's not a deal breaker. I think we know where turn down service. We know that where that market is. It's going to stay in 5-star, or maybe it won't, because they're not even doing it now during COVID. So maybe it'll just die away completely. I will say, staying at a hotel, like I think I've only stayed at one hotel that offered turn down service, and not gonna lie, it felt pretty good walking back into that room, but it was a novelty for me and it wouldn't be a requirement by any means. I will say that the ice they left me was completely melted, unused, and I'm sure that happens in every single room. The only benefit to me was the light adjustments. So properly rated.
Okay. Digital key.
Digital key is underrated. Digital key is underrated. I love digital key. I absolutely love using digital key whenever available. The reason I enjoy it is because Maybe for me, it's just, as much as I like experiencing hospitality and kind of analyzing the hotel's operations and check-in experience and so on and so forth, it's just convenience. I love just being able to put in my credit card information and know that everything is going to be completely fine, that I'm in control. I think it's also, maybe it's part of it is because I know how many mistakes can be made with somebody behind a front desk with credit card information and all that kind of stuff. I've authorized people's cards for outrageous amounts of money before. I've seen other people get all these different holds and like authorization. Just there's so much that can go wrong when you're dealing with somebody, especially in the current state of the industry where people are barely being trained and thrown out to the wolves, or there's no managers working. It's just one random person working the desk. I love you guys, but let me save you and me the trouble. I'm the digital key.
Didn't somebody we work with do like $1 million authorization on somebody's card or something crazy like that?
Wait, name the hotel. I mean,
Indian Lakes.
Shannon.
Yeah.
I was
trying not to call her out, but yeah.
I also did. I remember it was actually on the same night. Shannon and I both authorized somebody's cards for outrageous amounts of money on the same shift, and Zareen cleaned up the mess. Thank God.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Zareen. Social media marketing for hotels. You know where I stand on this.
Completely and inappropriately, grossly underrated. Hotel social media marketing in its current state is just so lame, stupid, and boring. If they even do it, because most people aren't going to do it, or if they do, it's going to be a post every 3 to 4 days of a cocktail with portrait mode and then uploaded to Instagram.
Yeah, and even the big brands themselves are just filming commercials and putting them on their social media sites. So they're taking a TV commercial, putting it on Instagram and saying, all right, we're done. It's like, that's not how that works. That's not
no context whatsoever. Absolutely no context. Yeah, it's completely underrated. And the brands and the individual hotels that acclimate are going to far surpass their competition, especially in a post-COVID world where every room night counts.
Right. This one, I didn't know you were going to touch on it so much earlier, but I have third-party booking engines, OTAs.
So third-party booking engines are overrated when the revenue was there, when nobody cared. Well, okay, we cared, right? But nobody really did anything because they make up such a large part of the business. I have it on my computer right now. I'm not going to navigate away from it because I know I'll mess up what we're doing right now. But I have a pace report from one of the previous hotels I was at, and the wild numbers coming from OTAs in terms of mix of sales. And when the revenue was good, nobody cared because we had that group business, that base that was always there to keep us good with very few commissions. We had rate because of that group business. We could drive a higher rate, which everything was, it was good. When the revenue's not good, it sucks. So as much as, yes, they make up a good chunk of your business when the revenue is good. So like, yes, we should be appreciative. Overrated because there is no benefit that an OTA can provide that a hotel cannot provide, number one, or number two, do better. Deal with hotels directly.
And last but not least, Motel 6.
Underrated. Motel 6 is so underrated. I encourage everybody to navigate when we're done here. We got several things that we're assigning you to do is going to be watch this podcast from last week, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out Motel 6, check out G6 Hospitality. They are they're doing some great things. The prototypes that they have and these that they have for developers to model their developments after are beautiful. Gone are the days of Motel 6 having those bedspread that has like different patterns and colors on them, and those yellow blankets that are disgusting that nobody ever washed. We're talking crisp white linens, just like any of the major brands, just like your luxury properties. Crisp white linens, uh, amenities that are fundamental, fridges, microwaves, all that stuff. We're talking about bathrooms that are well appointed. Like Motel 6, the product is becoming less and less of an issue now. Hotel products are pretty much great all over the board, especially when it comes to if you go to any brand, any hotel, anything, no matter if it's a Super 8 Motel 6 or Holiday Inn Express or JW Marriott, the product itself is going to be good pretty much wherever you go. So Motel 6, completely underrated. I'm actually looking forward to staying at one next time I get the opportunity to, at least a new one.
Niall says she'd love those old bread spreads.
Oh, that's disgusting. That is disgusting. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but that's all I have for today.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. I encourage you to. We're going to be going harder on YouTube as the days go by, and we'll see you back again next Friday. Time to be determined, but somewhere between 11 and 1 on every Friday.
And we have another interview coming out on Tuesday.
Yes,
I believe
probably
Kylee.
Yep. So we're going to be hearing from somebody who was working during the midst of the wildfires that were happening on the West Coast, and what it was like to be in a hotel where everything smelled like ashes and fire and everything like that, and the life of a hotelier, right? So tune in on Tuesday. Until then, have a hospitable weekend.
All right. Have a good one.